Good morning, everyone. I am Miss Long, and last week I was with you, and I'm a 9th and 10th grade teacher at Alma Bryant High School. And for the rest of this quarter, I'm going to kind of help you with some of the major standards that we're working on for the rest of this quarter. And my job is just kind of to make that a little bit easier for you guys, and just to go over what those standards are, what they look like, and how we apply those to the text that you're learning in your online or in your home today. So what we're looking at last week and this week is this standard right here, okay? Determine a theme or a central idea of a text and analyze in detail its development over the course of the text, including how it emerges and is shaped and refined by specific details. So last week, we looked at a couple of different poems and we saw how that theme is developed in a poem. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a larger text, and we're going to focus primarily on central idea and how a writer produces a central idea, and then how that writer just kind of makes it grow. Okay, and we're looking at how that person uses specific details to make that central idea grow throughout a larger text. Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking at today. I want to do just a quick review and remind you of how, like, if we look at Finding Nemo, for example, if I were to ask you what the central idea of Finding Nemo is, you would say, well, it's about a fish who gets lost, and his dad goes and he finds him. And that's basically what that text is about. Now, we know, though, that Finding Nemo is a full-length movie, right? So a lot of details go into making that idea come to life. So today we're going to see how that happens in a text. All right, if you are taking notes and you would like to do a little bit of practice with me, I'm going to give you just a second to get maybe a sheet of paper, some writing utensils, something to take a few notes that you can use and you can apply in your work that you're doing this week, and to give you a little extra practice that will help you in the work that you are doing. So I'm going to give you just a second to grab that. So again, this is central idea. It's what the text is about. It's all the details. They're all going to center around one specific idea. Now, as we're going through the rest of this quarter, what we're going to be looking at primarily are texts that are argumentative or specifically, or maybe persuasive. Okay, they're both along those same lines, where an author states a claim and he or she is backing it up with very specific evidence and details and facts, okay? So if you're taking notes, get these definitions down. A claim is the point that the author is trying to make, okay? Usually it's an opinion. You know, it may be an idea that he or she wants you to agree with, or maybe that person is just trying to bring attention to something that that person feels like is really, really important. You know, a lot of times we have a lot of issues out there that an author wants to really bring attention to and say, not enough people know that this is happening. So that may be his claim. Or think about the news articles that you see today. All these different ideas surrounding the coronavirus, right? And you know, everyone's trying to put out what they see on a daily basis, and they're using facts and statistics to back themselves up. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So as we're reading, I want us to follow these points. So again, claim is what the author is trying to prove, okay? That is the idea that that person is going to, what that person is writing about in the entire article. Now, how does he prove it? By backing it up with specific evidence. Note that authors will usually use facts, statistics, those are your numbers, right? those percentages, those numbers that say, oh, this is why we have a problem. Okay? Appeals means they're just trying to grab you, get you in. Okay? They may give you a very startling picture. They may give a very descriptive image that's there to say, oh, wow, I see in my head that this is a problem. Okay? And then other forms of justification. So, and then we're going to look at how does the author conclude, and is it effective? You know, conclusions can be extremely powerful. I and my students as well, I usually struggle the most with a conclusion because that's what I want to leave my audience with. That's the idea that I really want them to leave them with. And we want to make sure we do that effectively. So we're going to look at, in this article today, how does the author conclude, and does he do this effectively? Okay, so if you want to do some practice with me, and I'm going to do this with you, I'll show you how, what's going on in my head, and I'll show you how we use that article to pull some information that's really important. So if you want to, take a minute, and I want you to get you a chart going. I always have my students doing charts. I don't know about your teacher. My students get tired of seeing the charts. They use them every single day. So remember that I said last week, and if you weren't listening, with a text that we have never seen before, the best thing to do is to break it down into manageable chunks. Okay, so, and this is also some advice for whenever you take standardized tests. Okay, in 10th grade, you're going to take the pre-ACT. And in there, you're going to have some longer reading passages. And you have a very short time to get through those. So my advice to my students is to break that down into manageable chunks. Start with what you know. You know that every text begins with an introduction. Okay? In that introduction, this is where the author will be stating his or her claim. Okay? And now introductions will usually last anywhere from 1 to 3 paragraphs, usually. If it's a document that can be read in a short sitting, you're going to have an introduction in about 1 to 3 paragraphs. Okay? So that's where you need to be looking for, what is this claim? What's the central idea? Okay? And usually they're very easy to find. It may even be in your title, right? Okay. Next, what we will be looking at, break it down into, where are the body paragraphs? Where does he take that claim and build on them? Okay, look at the specific information that this author uses to back up his or her point. Okay, what are those facts? What are those statistics? What are the images that this person uses to make this content come to life? Remember that they're trying to get you to feel a certain way. They want you to agree with them. That's the major goal, right? Or at least they want you to stop and listen to what I have to say. That's what, if a writer is writing an argumentative or a persuasive text, they want you to at least feel the way that they do, okay? Look at specific data or some really strong evidence that they use to show this is the problem. And lastly, we're going to look at conclusion. And usually conclusion in a shorter work is maybe 1 to 2, maybe 3 paragraphs at the most. Okay, conclusions are usually pretty short, to the point, because again, they want you to say, okay, this is the lasting point that I want you to leave with. Okay, so once you can break these down into 3 manageable sections, then you've gotten half of your battle over with, because then all you have to do is go back and plug it in, and say, okay, these are the specific ideas that are backing up that main idea. Okay? All right, so I'll give you just a second to get this down if you haven't already, and then we're going to move on to the actual text, and I will read it to you, and I want you to see how this works in an article. All right, we're going to move on to our article. First of all, it's from the San Francisco Chronicle. It's called Scientists Fear the Spread of Exotic Snakes. It was written in 2008. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you. I hope you can follow along a little bit. And I want you to be listening for, and it's going to be pretty easy to find that claim, but I want you to be listening for what are some specific facts and details that this author uses to back up this point, okay? Scientists fear that Burmese pythons, already known to be breeding in South Florida, could spread through much of the southern United States. According to the new U.S. Geological Survey report, the python could find about 1/3 of the United States, including much of California, to be comfortable for its expansion. Although other factors, such as type of food available and suitable shelter, also play a role, Burmese pythons and other giant constrictor snakes have shown themselves to be highly adaptable to new environments, the report says. The snakes weigh up to 250 pounds and slither at a rate of 20 miles per month, according to USGS zoologist Gordon Rada. They are not staying put. One of them has slithered about 100 miles westward from its breeding colony in Arkansas. We have not yet identified something that would stop their spreading all the way to San Francisco, Rada said. If pet pythons were introduced into the wild in California by irresponsible pet owners, as happened in Florida, they could become established here even faster without need of a cross-country journey. What could stop huge snakes? They'd have to get past Florida's alligators first, although it's a complicated relationship. While alligators do eat pythons, pythons can also eat alligators. But once out of Florida, there aren't any free-roaming African lions and tigers between Florida and San Francisco. So, the absence of major predators outside Florida could help the snakes on their journey west. While there are no recorded attacks on humans by Burmese pythons in the wild, they have killed children in their native range, Southeast Asia. Pet pythons sometimes kill their owners, probably because they have mistaken the human for food and are unable to stop their instinctive reaction to coil and squeeze. In Florida, they eat bobcats, deer, alligators, raccoons, cats, rats, rabbits, muskrats, possum, mice, ducks, egrets, herons, and songbirds. They grab with their mouth to anchor the prey, then coil around the animal and crush it to death before eating it whole. Okay, and that's the way that article concludes. So hopefully you pulled out some interesting facts as I was reading this. And I'm going to show you how I'm kind of thinking through this. And what is the obvious main idea of this text? What is the author's claim in this text? Right, he's saying that pythons are a problem. Now, and guys, use your, make it as simple as you possibly can. You know, a lot of times you can use the text, and in fact, you can use the exact wording of the text to break down this claim. It's right here. Scientists fear that Burmese pythons, already known to be breeding in South Florida, could spread through much of the southern United States. Pythons are actually originally bred in Africa. They're on the other side of the continent. We have like boa constrictors and snakes like that that are from this area, lower of mostly South America and the bottom of North America. But Burmese pythons are not native to our country. So that's kind of interesting that they're here they were in Florida and they're spreading. And I don't know if you watch the news, but Florida has a snake rodeo every year where they go and they catch these because they are spreading so much. And you heard the list of all the wildlife that they eat. So in fact, they're having a problem in Florida with snakes eating so much of their wildlife. What were maybe some other facts that this author uses to get that point down? We know what our claim is. The claim is that these pythons are spreading uncontrollably, or at least there's the fear of them spreading uncontrollably, right? And what are some facts that he uses to back this point up? Okay, I'm going to give you just a minute, and I'm going to point through this, and if you're writing it down on your sheet of paper, I want you to get some of these down. One of the points that he mentions, and notice here, that according to the new U.S. Geological Survey report, guys, that's always a clue that they're about to say something that's really important, and that this is an important statistic that they want you to know, okay? And notice that they note their source, okay? U.S. Geological Survey report. The python would find about 1/3 of the United States to be comfortable for its expansion. So has a long range of area to cover, and it's going there, okay? Look at this one. This one is a little shocking. The snakes weigh up to 250 pounds. That's a big joker. And slither at a rate of 20 miles per month. It's getting on across there. So they can slither at a really fast rate, right? And then notice here that in this paragraph, the author uses an actual example of a snake that has slithered over 100 miles from its natural breeding colony. So he uses a specific example. You need to make sure you note that, because there he uses that actual specific, this is an instance where this happened, okay? He brings up an interesting point. He says, what could stop these snakes? What's an answer to the problem? He says, well, predators that prey on snakes. But then he mentions something else. He goes back and he shows that not always that simple, right? He shows that so do pythons eat alligators. So even though one's a predator, so is the other, right? So it's more like a battle, okay? And then look at the ending. And I'm going to show you this so you can get these for yourself. While there are no recorded attacks on humans, so he notes that this is not as big of a problem as it could be, right? But then he says, in their natural habitat in Asia, pythons have been known to kill humans. And look at how he ends. Very shocking, right? And it kind of seems to be an abrupt ending. But is it working? They grab with their mouth to anchor the prey, coil around the animal, and crush it to death before eating it whole. That's a pretty, that's a disturbing picture, right? Does it work? Yeah, I think so. So I'm going to show you how I did this in the chart form. And guys, it's not really that hard to do. It's very simple, actually. You just got to learn to, again, put this into manageable chunks that you know that you have been able to break it down. Okay. All right. So here I have filled in what I was just going over with you. And my suggestion, my advice is, as you are reading, through the next few weeks in your whatever class it is that if you're taking your online class or if you're just working at home, then I want you to learn to break it down into something manageable, and then go back and fill in that and look at how this writer actually sets up this article and sets up the text. Okay, introduction states his claim, body backs it up, and then conclusion leaves us with a memorable detail and a memorable image. Okay, well guys, that's pretty much it for today. I'm hoping that hopefully this will help you as you're reading through your text for the rest of this year, and I will see you guys next week. All right, y'all have a wonderful week.